a little trip, take a little trip, take a little trip with me. Hello, and welcome to Driving Forward Podcast Tuesday Trip. It is June 11th. We're coming up on halfway through June. I know I always call that out, and that's because it's kind of a marker to me that every time I do a podcast or a Tuesday trip, we seem to jump forward, obviously a week, and that week seems to go by so fast. So this week I'm going to talk a little about conference attendance and how that kind of went down last week. We had a lot of conferences happening in transportation and logistics last week. And especially for me, last week was a lot of travel. I met a large amount of people last week and talked a lot about technology. Attendance wasn't where we wanted it to be at GLCS was at 3 conferences, so it wasn't where we wanted to be at all 3 of those. But I think that's kind of an industry norm right now. In one instance, I was walking into the conference, and people, as I was walking in, I was kind of meeting one person, and then another person, and all of them were leaving that event. And literally, I was coming in maybe midway through the first day, and people were saying they were headed out. So they were returning back to their offices. So that was a bit of a shocker to me that people were exiting that fast. It really made me kind of reassess that particular venue. But in general, that one worked out very well for us. But it does make you question through this down market how things are going. Conferences bring value. The networking, the education, both in classes and meeting and learning about the possibilities with vendors, the relationship with vendors, all of that has great value. But you do have to ask yourself, does it provide enough value right now with a down market? Everyone is looking at how they invest their money and their time. We certainly saw upticks in conferences like Broker Carrier Summit and Manifest this year. Their attendees did rise, and I'm sure there's others that I didn't attend that rose as well. Those are unique, and they have their own secret sauce, if you will, or they're new. TIA, TCA were strong, but certainly reflected market conditions. Some of the others have struggled, and some potentially haven't. But really, you have to make a conference what you want it to be. On February 12th of this year, I spoke about conference tactics. And that was post-conference tactics. So once you have gone to a conference or an event, how you make the best out of that conference or event. What do you do to follow up on things, follow up with the people that you spoke about or spoke to, met, etc.? How do you follow up on leads? What are the best tactics that you can take following up post-event? But we utilize a pre-conference tactics as well. And this includes categorizing conferences into sales events, educational events, branding events, or groupings of all 3. And we know our mission at a conference or an event before we even arrive. We know what makes that event successful for us before we even show up. And this can be utilized whether you're a large company, a small company, a logistics, a trucking, or a technology company. It's really served us well. And it's getting together and understanding, why are we going? What are we benefiting from going? And at the end, having that debrief to discuss, did we achieve our goals? And then in future years, that will impact us on, are we attending and who are we sending, or what sort of effort are we going to put behind any sort of booth or investment behind a particular conference or event? And there's a lot more that goes behind that as well. So what's your thoughts on conferences and events in the logistics industry? Last week, there was 5 or 6 events happening all at the same time or somewhat overlaying each other. Some of different sizes, some were massive, some were not. GLCS attended three of those events. I particularly attended 2, or I specifically attended 2 of those events. This is an absolutely massive industry, but that's a lot of events. And can we sustain that many in a 1-week period? I think that we can, but it comes down to the value add in a compressed market on whether or not we can keep this going. I'm sure that we can. There was plenty of people there at most of these events, and some of them are extremely popular. So I have no doubt that we can, but the question is how do you get value yourself out of those events, and you kind of avoid that exit in the first day. So this Thursday, we have a great show with Kyle Kotke, the GM of Kotke Trucking. Kyle's a great guy. I don't know if you've ever heard him speak before, but there's actually a long story between myself and Kotke Trucking, and I'm very excited to have Kyle on the show on Thursday. So I'm very interested in talking with Kyle about his unwavering commitment to excellence, to his innovation, and their core values of bleeding blue, and how that has propelled Kotke Trucking to new heights. We were able to go live last Wednesday from Freightwaves Future Supply Chain. We weren't actually able to go live from Freightwaves Future Supply Chain. We actually went live from a hotel room because we ran out of time. We just had to go after everything closed up. We had a great time. I apologize for the audio, but we had Danielle Chaffin and Mike Marut on from Revanova, as well as Chris Thomas and his wife Miranda as guests, and then Robert Bain was on as well, and Mike Turner from GLCS and Zach Barnhouse from GLCS were on from Home Delivery World, bringing us in a bit of an event update from Home Delivery World remotely, kind of our on-site correspondents. So we had a good time talking with them, although they had some technical difficulties. It was good catching up with everybody. If you haven't had a chance to check out that discussion, there's a little bit of an audio. We were working off of 1 mic. We had enough remote mics for 4 people. We ended up with 6, but we made the best of it. Speaking of Chris Thomas, I got a great little video from the Porsche event while we were at Freightwaves. So I'll play that here now.
So this old trucker here just took a ride in a Porsche. I didn't throw up, but I damn near did.
So at Freightwaves, there was a Porsche event, and you could get a golden ticket to go for a ride in a 911S, and they would run you around for about 4 minutes. You'd pull a G or two. You'd go about 105 to 107 miles, maybe a little 105 to 107 miles an hour, and they'd whip you around. Chris was looking a little peaked in there, and I wasn't sure how I was going to use this video, but I've since edited it, and I've got it down. So now I've got it here, and I can use it at some point in the future too. So, Chris, if you want it, I'll send it back to you, but appreciate that. So I'll wrap this episode up here. Oh, yeah, freight movement. That's coming up here too. Freight movement actually is next week. So next week's episode of Driving Forward Podcast will be live from TA Dedicated in Eagan, Minnesota. And following that, There we got the dog. The dog's running around. So we'll be following that with the Freight Movement event sponsored by TA Dedicated in Eagan, Minnesota. And we're getting all kinds of dog noise here. She never comes around, but apparently she's coming around today. So TA Dedicated is sponsoring the Freight Movement inaugural event at the Fire Lake Grill House and Cocktail Bar. It's right next to the Mall of America. So if you are in Minnesota and you want to come hang out with us, we've got, I think at this point, roughly 40 spaces, maybe a little less than that. I've seen a few signups come over, but I have not counted that out yet. Roughly 40 spaces. I know we're going to do a pretty major push here in the next 2 weeks. So once again, June 20th, that is a little over, it's 9 days away. So just over a week. Would love to see everybody there and would love to fill up the space. So with that, we will wrap up this Tuesday trip. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, drive forward with purpose and innovation. Thanks for watching.